Hi, I'm Simon Rushton and this is Taxi Chronicles Podcast. On this podcast, we spontaneously interview unsuspecting passengers with their permission, allowing them to share their intimate life stories and concerns. As our slogan states, real riders, real stories. Some riders prefer to be anonymous, while others ask me to tell their story later on. Either way, there are all genuine 5 to 10 minutes stories, so sit back and enjoy this episode.
Have you had any life or death moments on your travels?
I've had a few guns pulled on me.
I had that in Kenya.
In my time. Once in West Africa, not Kenya, Ghana. Once in Colombia. And once in Peru. But in Peru it wasn't pulled on me. Peru was my favourite one. Peru, I basically... Peru was brilliant. So I basically... I arrive at this game lodge, like a wildlife viewing lodge, back end of nowhere, super dusty. We've been on the road for like 9 hours or something. It was hot, parched, it was like killing for a beer. And we come up onto the terrace, and this terrace, this place looks down over 2 huge ponds and lakes that have these beautiful birds flying over, parrots and gulls and stuff. And on the terrace, on the little veranda thing, there's a toucan.
Is it what?
A toucan, you know, the Guinness advert, toucan bird, big long beak. And this toucan just hops over to me. He's like a sort of pet bird of the lodge or something. And also I keep telling him, hello little fella, how are you? And he jumps into my arms, right? And he says, oh, look at the toucan in my arms. And I'm like stroking him. Look at this bee. I've never seen one close up.
They think you're trying to nick him or something.
No, not at all. Basically, so then this guy comes out who looks like a pirate. He's got like an orange bandana on and some hoop earrings. Quite little guy. And he's flanked by 2 really big men who look quite hard and a bit scary. And he says in Spanish, back then my Spanish wasn't so good, it's pretty good now. But I could get the gist. And he basically was like, who's this guy and what's he doing with Pipon? And I'm like, Pipon's a toucan? He's like, yeah, the toucan's called Pipon. I was like, I don't know, I just came here and Pipon came to say hello. And he's like, good. Do you like me? And he says, Pipon doesn't like people. Why does Pipon like you? And I'm like, I don't know, he just likes me. And then he's like, well, good. You like rum? I was like, I love rum, rum's my drink. He's like, well, come to my terrace, the private terrace on the top floor, and we'll have rum. So we get up there, and he says something which I couldn't catch to his big bodyguard dudes, and they take out their guns and put them on the table. So I'm like, whoa, God, what's going on? And then your man goes, no, it's okay, this is just to make you feel comfortable, so that you know that I trust you. People trust you, I trust you. And we proceeded to drink the best part of a bottle of very, very good rum. And it turns out that he was the biggest cocaine producer in that region of Peru. But he liked birds, so he set up his wildlife lodge. And he told me his story. And it was...
What was his story?
His story was that basically... Well, his story was about the wildlife. He told me, he said the cocaine, that's the business. He said, it doesn't matter, push to that side. No, he said when he had the money, he could look after his family, look after his village, look after his people. But what he really wanted was to be one of the nature. And he went about it a bit backwards. You know, he bought this beautiful place, but it didn't have the birds he wanted. So a conservationist would have planted the right plants to bring them in naturally. This dude isn't patient like that. So he sends his people off to the jungle with nets to catch them. And then he basically imports them. And he clipped the feathers but not the wings of some of the birds so that and then fed them. So that basically the birds knew they could come to the lodge for bananas and food. So that now they live wild, but they know where their food comes from. And like any animal, if it knows where its next meal's coming from, it's going to hang out there. So yeah, it was all a bit backwards how he set up this beautiful place. It was not how I would hope anyone interested in.
But you liked it, though. You liked the place.
I love the place, and I love the idea of sitting up there with guns on table, drinking this really lovely rum with a bunch of cocaine producers.
Proper South American,
yeah? It was a proper South American experience. He sadly died a couple of years later. He was really sad. He got cancer. He was a good man.
I got cancer?
Yeah.
Okay, so no one killed him.
No.
So what was the other time? You said Mexico?
So not Mexico, no, Colombia was a traffic checkpoint. It was a bribe, and we paid a bribe. And the same deal in Ghana.
So they just come along and put a gun in your face and pay you?
US. Yeah, basically. And yeah, but my favourite non-threatening situation was an attempted mugging that I had in Azerbaijan, and I'd been out photographing nightclubs to the guidebook. So it's like 1-2 in the morning, and I'm carrying about, I don't know, $1.5 worth of camera kit or something. And I'm just walking through the city at night, and actually ironically thinking to myself, wow, it's really nice to be in a city where I can carry $1.5 worth of camera kit around at night and not feel
on your own,
not feel threatened, you know. And I'm walking through the back end of one of the main squares. It was all being rebuilt and renovated at the time. And this young dude who looks more struggling artist than sort of street crime, really. And he came up to me, and he had literally like a table knife, like a bread knife, you know, like a knife, a fork knife. And I speak pretty good Russian. And he kind of held it at me, but not really threateningly. And it was like he wasn't quite sure what he was even doing with it. And it didn't have any kind of a blade on it, you know. And I was like, what the fuck's that? Excuse my language. At the knife in Russian. And he was like, I don't know, knife. And then he's like, I need money. And idiot me, I still hadn't really clocked this as a mugging situation because it just didn't look that one. So I was like, but we all need money, mate. You know, it's normal.
This is like a John Cleese Monty Python
It was
does
like
it,
the worst mugging ever. And then I looked at the knife, and he looked at the knife, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and we looked at each other, and then he just went, can we go get a drink? I was like, yeah, sure, man. So we went to the drink, and he started trying to buy me a drink. I was like, mate, you've just tried to mug me for money because you're desperate. Let me get the drink, come on. And then I said, I'm buying a drink for the man who tried to mug me. That's weird. Anyway, we had some beers. Turns out he actually was an artist, and he was pretty desperate, as poor people are. I mean, that was the saddest side to the story, but the attempt at mugging was rubbish.
Yeah. And you said you had Peru. That was Mexico.
That was Mexico. Colombia and Ghana were pretty boring. It was just like it was one was a copper, one was a policeman, and they were basically just they were trying it on for a bribe, to be honest. Maybe a little bit sad, you know.
So didn't they say anything to you to justify why they're taking the money? Like you don't have the right pass.
The Ghanaian guy had pulled us over with some cock and bull story about speeding or something, and my driver, who was lovely, he immediately went into this really, really like subservient, I'm so sorry, sir, I'm so sorry, sir. And I was like, oh, come on, because I get, this is out of order, mate. So I kind of, I was frustrated, and I just said, look, what do you want, how much do you want? Because it was so clear it was a bribe. And I didn't like seeing my driver, who had become kind of a friend of mine. I didn't like seeing him be this person, or this guy who was just being a bully, really. And he didn't want much, and so I think it was $20 or something. But he absolutely did point the gun right at me when I stepped in to try and do it.
So you physically stepped in to say, no, don't give him money?
No. I stepped in to say, how much do you want? Because he was still he was threatening. He was still on the bit about what how hard he would make it for my driver's family kind of thing or something, and how bad it would be if he was spinning a whole story, and it was winding up my driver, and I was being impatient. It was probably pretty stupid. Anyway, he raised the gun. He did point it at me. I backed off. Said, look, don't want any trouble. Maybe we could sort this out or something. I can't remember what I said. Anyway, that was that. And it was just to say those kinds of situations, they make me sad, because it's normally I don't like bullies, I don't like people who bully. I think in that scenario,
he's only doing it because he's got the uniform and the gun.
Exactly. And again, he's picking on someone weaker than he is, and let's face it, they're all victims of a corrupt system and of a corrupt thing, which is no different there to what we've got here in Luxon.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. It's been interesting.
It's been a lovely journey.
Well, it's gone quite quickly, to be honest.
I know, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've got there now.
13.
I can all smell the sea.
13 minutes left. Sunny Brighton. Well, it's kind of sunny Brighton and stuff. And then
we get more sun than you guys up in London. Just also to clarify, I did live in London for 16 years before I went down to Brighton, so I have loyalties to both.
Yes. But you're saying
London's an overpriced stinky shithole, and Brighton's really nice.
You're saying Brighton, yeah. What's the population of Brighton?
It's not big. I mean, the whole Brighton and Hove and associated stuff is about 400,000, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's really small.
Okay.
But like I was saying before, I think we've now got more restaurants.
So Brighton's like a borough, really.
It's become like London by Sea.
It's like one of London's boroughs.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that is always to ignore the fact that Brighton and Hove's got its own culture and history that is beyond all that. But yeah, to an extent, it sort of is. You know.
What would you say is Brighton's culture?
Well, one of the many things about Brighton is that it grew very quickly off the back of the Prince Regent George, who went on to be George IV. Him loving it down here. My understanding of it is that he was fat, total hedonist. He loved his fast lane set people who were rumoured to, they were actresses, they were hookers, they were bisexuals, they were drug users, they were drinkers, they were absinthe people, they were party people. So he'd bring them down here for their party things, and they included every kind of person.
Oh yeah, the sea.
And
you got wind turbines in the sea.
Yeah, we've got the biggest wind farm in Europe, I think.
I didn't know.
I thought it was like
shows how much of a London. I didn't know you had all that down there.
But no, what I love about Brighton most of all is the fact that it's a really, really welcoming and inclusive place, no matter who you are. I love the fact that people can be free to be who they are here. I love the fact that includes a lot of trans people who don't have to walk the streets in terror like they do in a lot of other places. I love the fact that it's, people are free to be who they want to be, and as long as you're not being a dick, you're allowed to.
You've got some nice houses here, though, isn't it?
Up this end is this is all a bit kind of like stockbreakers and posh community.
Yeah, these are big houses.
Yeah, we're up on the top of Hove looking down to the sea.
Look at that house.
Some of these are some of them are kind of retirement home stuff, but a lot of them are privately owned homes. But Hove, which we call Hove actually, of course.
This is a Hove?
Yeah. So
Okay.
basically people say, oh, you live in Brighton, and people live in Hove go, no, Hove actually. So it's known as Hove actually.
Oh, Hove actually?
Yeah. And people in Hove are rumoured to be a little bit above themselves. Sorry to my friends who live in Hove. I like teeter on the brink of Hove.
So you're kind of half.
I'm in Brighton, but I'm about 3 streets away from Hove. But yeah. Okay. But it's a nice place. I love the fact that Brighton's a bit nuts and a bit. I love the fact that we have the UK's first and only ever Green MP, and she's brilliant. I love the fact that it's a city full of nutters and weirdos.
So you're a green voter then?
I am actually. I've never mainly because I think Caroline Lucas is brilliant, and I think she's a really good thorn in the side of government. I don't agree with her on everything. I don't agree with the Green Party policies and everything.
Yeah,
but I'm very proud to have an MP who is decent and sound and who wants the UK to be better and fairer and do better.
So what's your MP's take on this 5G if she's for green? Because
I honestly wouldn't want to put words in her mouth, but I suspect she would be against it as being a slightly pointless and expensive consumerist and capitalist.
Yes, my attitude is if we've got internet now and it's okay,
why do we need to get new stuff that puts more?
I'm amazed at some of these houses.
Yeah.
They're really, really big.
They are. I mean, the Hove properties tend to be, some of them look almost like those kind of American Horror Story type haunted ghost story houses. They've got that different shaped windows and stuff. But so on this road coming into Brighton Road, they're all quite big. As you go down the hill to your right here, some are a bit more normal, but they're all wide. They've all got a really good sort of square footage.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind owning one of these.
And so basically,
but mind you can't swim in the sea. It's too cold.
Yeah, you can, man.
It's cold.
I've been swimming the sea all year. I've got a kayak down here, which is the best.
Yeah.
So like during the quarantine, you get out on the kayak and you're floating about 200 yards offshore. The summer and the spring. The weather down here has been incredible.
Don't the police try and tell you come back in?
Nope. No, they did at one point actually, but because no one was sure if you were allowed to or not. But we were like, well, actually, this is the safest place to be. We're miles from anyone, and you're out there, and the water's like flat like a mirror, and it's sunny. We were catching. We bought little mackerel out, and we were like catching mackerel, and sitting out there with a canopy. It's not, I'm going out there for exercise, but with a canopy.
What kind of fish? Is it cod?
We were getting mackerel. We're just catching a summer mackerel.
Those are small fishes, isn't
They're kind of about a foot long or whatever.
Oh, is it?
Fish. Yeah, they're really good on a barbecue and they're really good smoked. I've got a little smoker at home, so you smoke them up and make some mackerel pate. Get it from sea into your belly in the space of about an hour.
So these houses here, they've all got a view of the sea then?
Yep, the back of these all look down to the sea. Yeah.
I wonder what the prices for these houses are.
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy, but they're nothing like London prices.
Really?
Yeah, nothing like. I mean, these ones up here, they'll be. I would be rapidly guessing. I wouldn't want to put a figure on it, actually. I don't know. But they're a lot less than London still, for sure.
Okay.
And then if you look at some of the historic big properties in town, like close to where I live, which, as I said, is one of the sort of posher districts, there's properties, there's a 4-bed place right there, which will happily go for $1.5 million. If they've got a big garden and probably a sea view and blah blah blah. But I doubt these ones up here would be anywhere near $1 million. But they're probably still, I don't know, 700-800 grand or something. I'm not the right person to be asking this. But I know that when I was just like wondering how much lottery win I'd have to get if I wanted to get myself a nice little 2-bed with a garden, I know that down in Brighton I wouldn't live without an outdoor space again because I'm so used to my garden. I love my little garden. But I know that I could get a 2-bed with a little garden for a slightly pokey one for under 300 grand, and if I could stretch them closer to 400, I could get a really lovely place. That's a lot less than London.
Yeah, it's a lot less.
Plus the lifestyle down here is just better. You know, you've got access. You want to be outdoors more because you've got the sea air. Now, if I spend after 16 years of London, if I go up to London for a night or two, which before the virus, I'd do that for work quite often. I'll crash at a mate's place, perfectly comfortable bed and all that. So it's not like I'm sleep deprived. But after 2 nights, 3 nights, I can feel my head is full of dirt. You can feel that pollution, And this is coming from someone who's a heavy smoker, so maybe it's just the cigarettes I can feel. I don't know.
Maybe it's all taking its toll.
Well, that's what life does, isn't it? It takes your toll, and then you're screeching into your grave at 150 miles an hour. Anyway.
Well, thanks for this interview.
Thank you, Simon. It's been fun.
It's been great. You're not the longest interview we've had. We are the short. You're the second longest. The other guy was a music guy. He owned 3 music companies.
Okay.
And he really loves to talk. He really loves to talk. But it was a great interview as it goes. He'd done music with Jay-Z, Beyonce.
Oh, nice.
Joe Collins had been in his house before. He had loads of stories to tell.
You tell me he actually had things to say, Simon.
Well, no, you've had so much to say. I'm going to break it up into 3 sections.
Things to say. You had sharks for me.
Yeah, we've had sharks. We've
had sharks for corruption in
Djibouti.
Travel and guns.
Yeah, and we missed out Djibouti, but there's always next time.
There's always next time. Exactly.
Okay, well, have a great day.
We hope you liked that episode. Keeping in mind we never know who we're going to interview. We post twice a day, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. GMT. Have you ever considered the future economies to invest in? Why not listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories? Considering Africa has the fastest growing economies and population on Earth and has done for many years, it holds 30% of the world's known natural resources. We publish twice a week, Tuesday with a guest investor and Fridays talking about investment, politics and history, providing a clear understanding for any potential investor.